Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Guys Who Stare at Stats. I'm Cade Kennedy, joined by Connor Gray and Andrew Santangelo, and we have a lot to get to today. So, as always, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment down below. Now, on to the episode. Well, as always, getting the show started, both of you, now that we have our full three-person crew again, the most important question of the day: how are you two doing today?
Tired.
Well, that was a quick answer.
Yep. I'm just
tired.
I'm doing pretty well. I mean, another good week. Another a lot to talk about. Feels like forever, but sports are finally getting back here at Northwestern. First regular season games this weekend. I mean, I obviously had the exhibition last weekend. But, first regular season opener Friday, Sunday here. And then, like you said, football and volleyball will be back on campus here shortly as well.
Yep, it is going to be a fun time here in Northwestern. We had soccer starting Friday. We got high school football coming back Thursday. It's starting to feel like an actual, summer again for the few days we have it until fall comes around.
Summer. It's fall semester.
Listen, it's still technically summer. I'm one of those people. But moving into our stories, we have a big one that dropped earlier this morning. To the surprise of probably zero people at this point, Kevin Durant meets with the Brooklyn Nets. After all the drama, the whole 2 months of dragging this out, Kevin Durant has decided he will stay with the Brooklyn Nets. Their title odds have already doubled, went from 18-1 to 9-1. And everyone believes here come the Nets again, despite the fact they really haven't done anything with it yet.
Exactly. It's just one of those things. It's like the Durant just cannot keep himself from drama. I really don't understand a lot of the thought process. Is like, I don't know how he really thought he was going to be able to get traded, especially with whatever Nets were wanting out of a trade, and how many teams would even be able to deal with his contract. So,
Yeah, I said it before the show when we were just talking. I don't buy it, if I'm being honest. First off, it's Kevin Durant, so we've heard him say, I'm going to stay in Oklahoma City. We saw how that turned out. Oh, there's no problems in the locker room in Golden State. We saw how that turned out. So to me, this is just another thing. You don't go from demanding a trade early in the summer, then you don't go from saying fire the head coach and the GM or trade me, and then all of a sudden 2 weeks later, everything's perfectly fine, and I'm sitting in Brooklyn all good and ready to go play. I don't buy it. I mean, is he going to hold out? No, I don't think he's going to hold out at this point, but I think we all said it on the show before. We didn't, as he wanted to be traded, a trade package just wouldn't happen before the year. So I think he realizes that, and I would not be surprised if he's traded around deadline time still. I mean, again, you still look at that roster. I mean, him and Kyrie, they had issues last year. They're still going to have the issues. Ben Simmons hasn't been on a court in over a year. He's caused plenty of locker room problems. I mean, who's to say that's not going to happen? And I just don't see this fit with this team. I mean, they lose Andre Drummond. Obviously, they still have Seth Curry. So obviously they have a shooter there. But, I mean, if you think about it, how much better did this Nets team really get this offseason? Not much. So they're still going to have plenty of problems. And this team was, 7th or 8th, I think, in the East last year. So, I mean, to me, we'll see what happens at the deadline. But I still would not be surprised to see him traded around deadline time.
I mean, I really don't get it. I really don't get – if you're not going to get traded, you cause all this drama, you do all of this just for nothing to happen. And I understand the Nets – you have the highest asking price in the world. I understand them not getting the pieces, but this was one of the most ridiculous sagas we've seen in the NBA in quite a while. And like you said, to your point, Andrew, Kevin Durant he causes this wherever he goes.
Yep.
And this was the one thing we talked about on the show. I know, what team wants this? He's 34 years old. He's had injury problems at this point in his career. He's on a 4-year contract, and all of this happens. Why would you want him at this point?
You don't you're basically a lot of teams. Last thing you need right now is a cancer in the locker room. That's going to cause much worse problems.
No, absolutely. Okay.
No, you go ahead.
That's absolutely. And, I mean, we talked about it before, too, over the summer. With a guy like Kevin Durant, if you're an NBA team, you have to be careful. I mean, what you trade, is anybody going to be as good as Kevin Durant? No. But what you trade might make you a worse team. Like we talked about it with the Jaylen Brown, the Celtics, and all what they'd have to give up. in the end, while they're getting the better player of the deal, whatever that trade package, like a Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, etc., would probably make that Celtics team a little worse, like in the long run, a team that went to the finals. So, again, that's what you have to remember in this. It takes both sides, and I think Durant realizes, you know what, it's going to be pretty tough to trade me here before October, so I need to figure things out. I'll make it work for at least the beginning, and we'll see what happens. But, again, my last point on this one is how many times do you see GMs go, oh, this guy's not going anywhere. Oh, 2 weeks later, this guy's traded.
Yeah.
Or, like, this guy goes, oh, they told me I'm not going to be traded, or I don't want to go anywhere. Oh, 10 days later, I'm traded. Like, it's so it happens. We hear the GMs talk before. So, and I could be completely wrong. Maybe he stays there for another 4 years. But I'd be shocked. While I said I think he'll still be traded by deadline, I will be 100% surprised if he finishes out the 4-year deal.
Yeah, it's like one of the things like you said, like they were saying possible deal to the Celtics. It's like you had Jaylen Brown, Tatum for the most part of the year and most of the playoff was actually doing really good. You had Marcus Smart doing really great on defense and occasionally being one of the better offensive scorers. You had all kinds of key players. The problem is you'd have to take away 2 or 3 of those guys. Well, yes, overall, Durant is a better player than probably 3 of the 3 that would be in that package. The problem is that you lose something of value and with those other players you give to that team. So that's just one thing you got to look at it and just be like, it ain't worth it. It's one thing if they could get rid of one player, that'd be one thing. But obviously with Durant and his contract and other stuff, you have to give away either some picks and players, or you have to give away just players, and you're going to lose a lot of a possible run that they'll might have again.
Exactly. No, absolutely. And the best part about this whole thing is, you know what it's going to come down to again? Is Ben Simmons. And as a Sixers fan, I know how that's going to end. Because in the end, obviously, we all talked about before, too, is you need 3 players to win a championship in the NBA. Yeah. And who has to be that third player? Ben Simmons. I mean, we know what they're going to get out of Kyrie. You know what you're going to get out of Kevin Durant. And who's going to have to hold the team together? It's going to have to be Ben Simmons.
So the third player is actually going to be Seth Curry, right? Because we know what's going to happen with Ben Simmons. He's going to go MIA again.
Exactly. Well, Seth Curry's defense isn't going to be able to hold his own.
Hey, Seth Curry will hit a few threes. I can confirm
It'll be more than a few. I can confirm that one.
But we do have some other NBA news, some Donovan Mitchell news, because, I mean, hey, let's make it a twofer. The Hawks, Heat, and Kings are not interested in Donovan Mitchell, contrary to reports. Reporting from John Gambadaro, who has been a 25-year host of 98.7 FM in Arizona. But the Knicks still have the best package for Donovan Mitchell, but offers the other teams are interested: Cleveland, Washington, Charlotte, the Nets, and the Lakers. And no, the Jazz never asked for 7 first-round picks. That was just a rumor. So the report here. So my question to you guys, obviously the Knicks are the favorite. Of those other teams listed, where would be the best fit for him?
I know I said this to you, Cade, before the show. You weren't here when we talked about it. I thought Cleveland and Cade said Charlotte probably would be a good place for him to go. It's like with Cleveland, I looked down like you already got a lot of young talent that's pretty good. You just throw a star player in there. I know you might have to give up a couple of those guys, but you still keep most of that young core there, and then you can obviously draft or whatever you can get out of the next couple of years. You got a solid team that can at least make a playoff push probably into the semis if they can get over the hump.
Yeah, this is a tough question because obviously no matter what you're trading, you're going to have to give up a ton for him. And I don't know. I've never heard 7-round picks before, but I'm going to read you this trade package. And the Knicks offered Evan Fournier, Obi Toppin, and 5 first-round picks for Mitchell, and they declined that. I don't know what the Jazz are expecting in this deal, because at this point, if that's what they're asking for more than that, they're never going to find a trade package.
I think this goes back to Rudy Gobert, not to cut you off, Andrew, but this goes back to when you get 5 first-round picks for Rudy Gobert, they're going to ask for more. Danny Ainge knows what he can do now. Okay, they offered this. What can you do to beat this deal? I want 6 first-round picks. I want X amount of players. I want this, and this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So here's my thing. Again, back to the original question. The best fit here is the Los Angeles Lakers. Your biggest issue last year was point guard. Russell Westbrook was horrible. You can't have a worse year than Russell Westbrook did in that spot. if you're going to tell me you're going to upgrade with Donovan Mitchell and you're going to roll out Mitchell, LeBron, and Anthony Davis, I mean, that might be the best three in the NBA going into next season. What fears me are Brooklyn. I mean, you have Kyrie, so I don't see that fit unless you're giving up Kyrie because of all the issues there. Cleveland, I mean, as much as potential would be there, they're already logjammed there with Colin Sexton, so unless you're giving him up in the deal. Washington, I mean, I don't even, if the Knicks going to get that deal done, I don't know what in the world Washington even has to offer, because obviously if you're trading for a guy like Mitchell, you're not giving up Beal because you want him to pair with Beal, so I don't know what they'd have to offer. Charlotte's already logjammed the guard as well with the ball and everything, so I don't know about that fit. So I'd have to go Lakers, because if you're making this move, Westbrook's going to be in there to eat some of that make the contracts work. You're obviously not trading LeBron or Davis. But here's the thing, going back to Washington, I mean, you're obviously keeping LeBron and Davis. What in the world do the Lakers have to offer at that point? So, I mean, honestly, I'd have a hard time believing Mitchell goes to any of those teams listed. In all honesty, I don't know. I'd have to pick best fit on the court would be the Lakers, just because, again, I think that trio of Mitchell, LeBron, and Davis, you could argue would be the best trio in the NBA going into next season.
I also probably like to think, because obviously you got rid of Gobert, and also they're wanting to move on from Mitchell. Obviously you're going to be in tank mode, so more, and obviously, like you said, Lakers would probably be a good fit. But it's like, obviously, like you said, Russell would have to eat. Their contracts would match up enough where they could eat a good amount of it, so it's not where they're not really making much of a change on spending. And then you also have to give up draft picks just to compensate.
Well, yeah, and depending on
because obviously Utah's going to be in a rebuild mode. So
no, exactly, and depending on how many picks you're asking for, I mean, the NBA's got the rule where you can't trade back-to-back picks, so you're basically going to have to find a partner with 2 picks in a first round, because, again, it's not like, okay, unless, I mean, that'd be pretty funny if you're trading every other year, but that's just too rare. And you look at the Lakers, I mean, they've lost so many picks over the last few years. So, I mean, who knows what picks they even have to offer. So I don't know. I would like to see the Lakers fit there in terms of just basketball. I think that'd create the best challenge. And, I mean, picture a West where you got Mitchell, Davis, LeBron going up against that Suns team, going up against that Warriors team, going up against that Grizzlies team. I'll throw the Mavs in there for you, Cade. But no, a lot of top-tier talent in the West if that actually happens. A lot of top-tier studded teams, and, I mean, the top 4, I mean, it'd just be a free-for-all, and that in a good way. You're just going to have complete chaos there at the top. And then, I mean, you throw that into, I mean, any of those teams, I mean, you throw them against some of the East teams, and obviously, I mean, I don't know. It'd create a lot of fun basketball. I would love to see Mitchell on the Lakers from an NBA standpoint.
So obviously, you think, what out of the two, you think he's more likely to go to the Knicks or Lakers?
Knicks or Lakers? I would say Knicks have more to offer, so I would have to go Knicks as well. But again, if that trade package is true that they offered him, if I'm the Knicks, I'm not going more than that. And I like Mitchell. I like his full-on potential, but he's not worth. I mean, you're trading 2 young guys who you've picked high in the draft, and then you're giving up 5 first-round picks, and that's not enough.
The thing is, they just got a pick from the Thunder off a trade
in
the draft. So basically, you're just losing. It's like, I think either Knicks got to just realize that, hey, we got to look to just our future rather than try to get something in now, because you're just losing players you just drafted for within the last couple of years.
Yeah, no, exactly. And here's my thing. If you're the Jazz, though, why are you asking for so many first-round picks? You just got 5 for Rudy Gobert. Now you want 7. There's no point. Or even if you get another 5, there's no point. At that point, I mean, you can't keep all those guys. The Jazz, and I know it sounds funny coming from a Sixers fan who went through the tanking days, but it's not like we were traded for 10 first-round picks. I mean, unless they have other sights to see there. I mean, again, you look at it. Mitchell's young enough where you keep, they could still be pretty good, but go get young talent to mix with those draft picks. You already got your 5. You already got the 5 first-round picks that are going to build that team. Trade Mitchell. Go get I'd rather them go get a 3rd player from the Knicks rather than an extra draft pick.
Yeah. I do not disagree. But moving on from basketball to football, Baker Mayfield, to the surprise of about one person, that person being Sam Darnold, is the starting quarterback of the Carolina Panthers for Week 1. So the revenge game is set. The redemption is set. Baker Mayfield says it's not a redemption year, but about everyone else believes it is, especially with that first game that's going to happen of Cleveland versus Carolina. Going to be a fun time there. But obviously, I know we all talked about it before the show. None of us are surprised or shocked at all that Baker's the starting quarterback for the Panthers.
I mean, you have Darnold, who's basically been saying go since New York, and you have Matt Corral, who's a rookie. Obviously, I'm not sure how healthy he is.
He's out for the season.
He's out for the season.
Okay,
He
that's
needs
what I thought.
surgery.
So basically, all you have is Baker, and then whatever quarterback you're able to just pull from after the preseason. So it's like literally not a surprise that Baker got it. It was like, I think even if Matt Corral was even healthy, it still would have been Baker, because you're not going to put all your chips on a rookie you just drafted out of the 3rd round, I believe.
Yeah, it was the fakest quarterback battle maybe in history. Like, I mean, again, you have 2 guys, quote unquote, that are going to compete for it, and then you trade for Baker and give up that kind of package. No, you're going to start Baker. You saw what you had in Sam Darnold last year. It's not like you upgraded receiver or anything. I mean, you kept your receiving core the same, so you knew what you had in Sam Darnold. You knew you weren't happy, and obviously the Baker drama made it almost fall basically in their lap. They knew what they were doing, and they're going to go take their chance with Baker. And it's a 1-year deal. They got nothing to lose. It's a prove-me deal for Baker. It's a prove-me deal for Carolina. He can go out, win them 12 games maybe, and, get locked up long-term, or he can go out and win 4 games, and we might be talking about him being a backup next year. I mean, this is, I don't know. You used the word redemption, Cade. I don't know if it's more redemption or if it's just a prove me. I mean, it's
I was going to say, it's more of a make or break season for Baker. Either he make where he pretty much leads this team to success, actually gets them to the playoffs, even if it's like the 7th seed. That's a much better progress than they've had since the prime years of Cam Newton, or
I was going to say not last year's Cam Newton.
no,
That lasted
I said
one whole game.
I said prime.
I know. I'm joking
So,
with you.
But then, or like you said, Andrew, he might do 4 games and then he'll be thrown as a backup for probably the rest of his career. This is where whether you're a Baker fan or you're just a Carolina fan or just a football fan in general, this is where all eyes are on Baker and see how he'll actually do. I think there's just all kinds of issues that happened in Cleveland that prevented him. Obviously, last year, injury on his left arm, so it kind of really messed up with mechanics. So it's just one of those things where now there's no. It's all on him to do well. If he doesn't do well, you can kiss his career. You can kiss his starting career goodbye.
yeah, I agree.
But that moves on to the question, now that Baker's officially the starting quarterback, we've talked about the Panthers a little bit. Andrew, I know we did this last episode for what will the Browns look like this year and kind of predicting game by game for them real quick. You start with Carolina, Week 1, you get Cleveland, big game there, obviously. Everyone knows the storyline with that, with Baker going up against his former team. You get Week 2, you go to New York, you play the Giants. That's a winnable game there for Carolina. You come home, you play New Orleans, first divisional game of the year. Then you get Arizona at home, San Francisco at home, go to L.A. to take on the Rams, come home, get Tampa Bay, go to Atlanta, go to Cincinnati, get Atlanta at home on a Thursday night game, then go to Baltimore, get Denver at home, bye week at Seattle, Pitt at home, Detroit at home, at Tampa Bay, and ending the year at New Orleans. So, in your guys' opinion, what is best case scenario, worst case scenario, and what your prediction is?
Yeah, I mean, you have a favorable schedule here. I mean, in all honesty, outside that middle stretch, I think best case scenario, I mean, you're not going to obviously beat Tampa Bay in the division, so your best case scenario is still a wild card, and you see what happens in the playoffs. But, I mean, a lot of injury-prone players on this Panthers team, which we talked about beforehand. Obviously, Baker's had his own injury history. We talked about Christian McCaffrey. Robbie Anderson hasn't been fully healthy all the time. DJ Moore's been hurt. I mean, that's 3 of his best weapons right there. So your worst case is, honestly, 4 or 5 games. I mean, it could be 3 or 4 games could be your worst case. I mean, again, you have to take advantage of what's given to you. I think this team should start, assuming they're healthy, should start 3-0. I think they drop 4 straight, though, to Arizona, San Francisco, L.A., and Tampa. I think that's just a gauntlet of a stretch. Maybe you steal one. That'd be best case there. I mean, a pretty good case there for him. I think you're able to. I think you split with Atlanta. I think you'll lose to Cincinnati, lose to Baltimore, Denver, beat Seattle. So I mean, I'm looking at about 7 wins for Carolina.
I think they could probably go 4-0 because Arizona's not very consistent with their play.
It's early, Kyler Murray. Not late in the year though.
True, but I'm still gonna look at that until we'll see how Arizona goes into that game. But I'm gonna right now think they'll go 4-0, then they'll go 4-4, and then I think they'll take both games from Atlanta, and then they'll put them at 6-4, but then they'll lose to Cincinnati. Cincinnati's just too good, and then lose to Baltimore, lose to Denver. They'll beat Seattle. They'll lose to Pittsburgh. I think they might have a drag-out fight with Detroit and somehow pull away, then lose to Tampa, and then probably lose the last game. I think they'll probably go. I think that was either I give them 8 or 9 wins. I think they're going to go around 500, whether it be below or above. They could sneak in, or they just miss it. That's how I look at it. I'm giving them a better. I think I'm giving them odds to actually just sneak their way into the playoffs. Sneaky. But that's also acting as if most of the team stays healthy. That includes McCaffrey and any of the other weapons Baker needs to mainly stay healthy most of the season. But odds are probably not going to happen. But
So here's what worries me with Baker too, though, is he struggled. He played 500 ball with a better Cleveland team. I mean, I get it. McCaff's probably better than what. I mean, I think Chubb's almost just as good as McCaff, to be honest, though. But when you look at that running back duo there, I mean, I know I said McCaff and Hubbard are one of the better duos, but I mean, I lean Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt a little bit higher than that duo. So I think you had a better running back duo there. You look at, I mean, before Odell was traded, Javaris Landry, I mean, that's a better wide receiver core than what he's going to have in Carolina. So that's why I'm hesitant to give him some of these extra wins that you gave him, Connor, just because I think that Carolina team is a little less than what he was able to have in Cleveland. I get it. He wasn't always fully healthy, but again, that was that not last year, the year before that. I mean, he's shown some signs of struggling, and I worry about Carolina's defense a little bit too. And I mean, he obviously had help on that side with Cleveland as well. So that's why I can't give him some of those wins.
Understandable.
For me, the worst case scenario is, of course, Christian McCaffrey gets injured in some way or form. The defense doesn't live up to expectations. Offensive line crumbles. Baker gets, messed around, and, maybe you have to put Darnold in or something like that. That's always worst-case scenario. If that happens, you're looking at a 3 to 4 win season more than likely for Carolina.
I'd probably give them worst case, probably them only winning 2 games.
I don't know. I mean, Detroit and Seattle, and then pick one other game.
I think Detroit's going to be better.
But it's Detroit. Detroit is like Cleveland. I can't imagine them being good until I actually see it happen. And, Matt Stafford ain't walking through that door.
Yeah. I'm going to look up what their over-under is real quick.
Alrighty. But looking at it, to me, best case scenario is 9-8, and you sneak into the playoffs. That is absolutely everything going your way. I think, like you two have said, the big stretch of Arizona, San Francisco, Rams on the road, and Tampa Bay at home, I think they win one of those 4. I don't know which one it is, but something tells me when you get 3 of those games at home, you're bound to win one of them and find a way to sneak one out there. I agree that they will probably start 3-0. That puts you at a record of 4-3. I actually think they sweep Atlanta. I am not a believer in Atlanta this year, but they lose to Cincinnati, they lose to Baltimore, they lose to Denver. They're 6-6 going to the bye. They beat Seattle, lose to Pittsburgh, beat Detroit, and they go 8-9. That is my personal prediction. I don't think that's good enough to get them into the playoffs unless something really screwy happens this year in the NFC. But as a Baker fan, I would like to see it happen, obviously. You've heard me talk about it on this show a lot. But that's where I stand with Carolina this year.
So where do you guys think their over-under is? So you said 8 wins, so what do you around 8?
I said probably 8 wins. I would think their over-under, I feel like, is probably lower, like a 7 or 6.
So what, you said 9 wins?
Well,
you said 8 wins,
I gave them
and I said 7 wins?
Yeah, so we're right in the middle.
So we all picked the over if we're going off that. The over-under is 6.5.
All righty, there we go.
That's why I thought the over-under was like 6 or something.
That doesn't surprise me at all with injury history you know about these players and what
No.
is expected of Carolina and Matt Rule.
No, in all honesty, Carolina's biggest question this year is going to be health. Like,
is.
Baker can perform. Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore can perform. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey can perform. Obviously, they got some guys on defense as well. And, I think their coach is a little undervalued in Matt Rule. So, this team has potential. Again, I don't think –
Actually, and I think depending on how the season goes, like if it goes pretty bad like it did last year, Matt Rule's getting fired.
Yeah, I think he's better suited for college, to be honest, too. But I do think he's a little undervalued there. But, here's the thing, though. Cade, you're talking about worst-case scenario. Things could go south. Maybe Baker lets the emotion get too much to him. Cleveland somehow finds a way to upset them. Obviously, we don't expect that. But you travel to New York. I'm not big. I don't think Giants can be anything special. But Daniel Jones, obviously, early in the year at home, that's not an automatic win. Obviously, I picked him to win. But that's the thing. These aren't automatic wins, which is kind of crazy, too. Saints is a divisional game. You play them twice. Both teams know each other well. You're not guaranteed that win. Again, I already mentioned Arizona. You get the – so, that's the funny part is some of these teams, like, it seems a little favorable, as I mentioned earlier. But as I go through it, it's like, well, I guess in the end, these are – if things go south quick, that's what's going to be, too. We all know Baker plays with emotion. So they got to go out and get those first 2 or 3 wins just to give that team confidence. Because if you find a way and you're coming out of that Saints game 1-2, I think things go south quick over there in Carolina.
They absolutely could. And speaking of things going south, that is what has happened to the LA Angels. Owner Arte Moreno was exploring the possibility of selling the team earlier today. He has officially sold the team. So let the games begin with the Angels. This raises a whole bunch of questions. Where do you go, whether it be with Trout and Ohtani? What is their future? What do the Angels do from here? Do they actually decide to spend more money, try to get more players? What is their process? There's a whole lot of questions to get to here.
Yeah, I know we discussed the what if possibility they decide to get rid of Trout and Ohtani. That's not going to happen. You don't keep those you don't let superstars like that go. You try to build around them, which the team obviously has really failed to do the last four years. Trout's basically his entire career after 14, they've failed to help him out. So, and obviously right now Trout is still kicking butt like he's been most when he's healthy, and then Ohtani is still productive on the pitching and hitting aspect. So it's one of these things where you got to go out and spend some more money.
Yeah, Cade, you mentioned the word South. I'm going to disagree. I think this is good news if you're an Angels fan. For a lot of the reasons Connor said right there is that they haven't. They got weapons. Here's the thing, too, is they can't really spend more money. Obviously they can, but my point is they've spent a ton of money. You went out, locked up Mike Trout. You went out, got an international player in Ohtani, locked him up for a long time. You went out, signed Anthony Rendon, stole him from the Nationals for a lot of money. You went out, you bought Albert Pujols, obviously, before he left. You went out and got him. You went out and bought Justin Upton. You went out and traded for a guy like Noah. They went out and they've spent as much money as they almost possibly could. And this just wasn't a very well-run franchise. To waste talent like Trout and Ohtani these last few years, and especially Trout since 2014, like you mentioned, Connor, this to me is a positive because now you can finally – because obviously the direction they were going was not going to work, and it was never going to work. You even went out and bought your manager in Joe Madden, who's been a World Series type manager with the Rays losing and then Cubs winning. So, these guys have – they went out and got pretty much anything they could. I think they are at that point where next year, if you're not contending, Ohtani's gone. I get the talent, and he's a generational type player, and you're probably never gonna see a guy like that again. But he's not gonna re-sign there if they can't win. So at this point, he's going into his last year next year at the deadline. If they're the same team this year, where they're 20 games under 500, there's no reason to keep Ohtani because he probably won't go back. So I think he's a guy you're gonna have to move. And here's the thing too is when you trade a guy like Ohtani, you're obviously gonna get a ton back, and Trout's still locked up for another 10 years. So your potential there is still going to be there unless you decide to trade both, which if you're trading both, that will shock me. But the only reason why Ohtani wouldn't shock me is because of him being a free agent. I mean, if you're a guy like him and you see the way this franchise is going, I mean, you have absolutely zero incentive to re-sign there. So I think if you can't fix things this offseason, and this actually, to me, gives you a chance to fix things offseason because the ownership you had before hasn't worked, there might be potential to save this Angels team going into next year.
Yep.
It's going to be intriguing. That is the main thing to me. Like you said, Andrew, I wouldn't be surprised if Ohtani leaves. It would not surprise me in the slice. I mean more going south in the sense of that is where the Angels have been over the past 8 years. Just, I don't mean that this is a bad thing for them either.
Sorry, I took your word wrong then.
No, I was speaking, in a transitional sense, not a literal sense. But Angels fans have been clamoring this for the last 5 years, it feels like. They finally got their day.
It's a very much needed change because when I was out in LA, me and my mom went and watched the Angels play the Mariners. The talent that they have, it's just like there's no excuse for why they were just playing seemed like pretty poorly, especially some of the batting lineup. It's like some of them are like some of their numbers. It's like why are you guys playing bad? And then it's like Ohtani and Trout did what they could, and then just obviously got to see a brawl twice.
Yeah, no, that's a fun rivalry out there. So.
But it was just kind of weird just seeing how bad some of their pitching could be, and also just their hitting just not very consistent. It's like Trout and Ohtani throughout the course of the year have been consistently playing well, especially when Trout isn't injured. Luckily, Trout has never dealt with a season that's taken him out over half the season. So he's actually been more healthy this year. But it's like him and Ohtani play really well constantly, while as everyone else is like, I'll show up when I feel like it. But I think it's about time they they'll have to move pieces around again. But you do whatever you can to hopefully by next year you're at least doing well and at least try to make a playoff push. And then if Ohtani sees signs, hey, we're getting better, he'll probably resign. But more likely, just I don't trust the franchise. You could probably see Ohtani either going back to Japan or he's going to go somewhere else in America.
That's like one of my favorite tweets I see. I mean, you just constantly see it. Trout and Ohtani break this kind of record, and the Angels still lose by 5 runs.
Yeah. Ohtani and Trout combined for 7 home runs, lose 8-7.
Yeah.
There you go. That's the way it's done in Angels land. Why win when you can simply have good highlights and lose? But that takes us to our final part of the show today. Just continuing right in with baseball, looking at the American League standings. The Yankees, that lead is still slowly shrinking. 8 games now separate the Yankees and the Rays, and the Blue Jays are only half a game behind Tampa Bay. It is an absolute battle there in the American League East. And, don't forget about Baltimore, too, just chilling at 63-58, and the Red Sox a 60-62 record.
Who would have thought? Sorry to cut you off, but who would have thought Baltimore having a better record than Boston?
Orioles fans.
No, I mean, good to see. I mean, they went on that big run, and they have not turned back. It's going to be a fun battle down the stretch between those 4 teams there. I mean, you know what? The Yankees might even continue to blow it. So, I mean, but especially Toronto, Baltimore, and Boston for the final wildcard spot.
And then you look at the AL Central. The Guardians have a 2-game lead over the Twins, and the White Sox are only a game behind, so the 3-game separation between the Guardians, Twins, and White Sox, another competitive battle, the most competitive battle I would say right now in baseball. And then you get the Royals and Tigers, who are just so far into tank mode that it does not even matter.
I think Royals overall since last month have actually overall been playing better baseball, and they lost many of their core contributors. That's not Salvador Perez. I mean, Perez is still there, but you lost Whit Merrifield and you lost Benintendi because they were on bigger contracts. And so you pretty much have opened yourself up for just working with younger guys through some small trades and obviously your farm system. So I think that's where Kansas City is just going to have to go from at least the next couple seasons, just work through the farm system like they did before when they had their World Series runs. But I'm just glad they're not in last place in the division. I know them and Detroit are not that far from each other, but still, for a while, Kansas City was on the bottom for a long while, and then they right now have overtaken Detroit.
A lot of baseball left.
Yeah.
2.5 games can easily be made up if they want to. That's up to Detroit. They can go when they feel like it.
No, I'd rather first pick.
And then looking at the AL West, Houston with a commanding 11.5 game lead. And then the Mariners, who are still just thriving, just doing what they have to do to get wins. And then the Rangers, Angels, and A's in the battle for mediocrity to bad.
Yeah. The West, West is pretty much over, unfortunately. Obviously, we'd all rather see a different team than the Astros. But Seattle will be a fun playoff team. I think this is the year they break that playoff drought.
I will say it's been really – it's like a few years ago, Seattle pretty much was basically the bottom of the division, and now they're in second place.
That's what
Instead of chasing after big contract players, they're just kind of like, we'll just bring in some guys over, not really as well known. They're just making it work.
You gotta give the GM credit. He made some really good trades, brought in some prospects, and the prospects are panning out. Some of those guys in that rotation are throwing really well. J.P. Crawford was a young prospect, got traded out there, and he's starting to really perform. And the other fun thing about the Mariners, they're a very likable team. They got a lot of fun guys on that team. I like watching.
Moving on to the National League, the Mets still with a 3-game lead in the NL East. The Braves right behind them. That series continues to heat up when they play each other because that 3-game separation, you look at it, Braves are 8-2 in their last 10. Mets are 5-5. Atlanta's getting closer and closer to chipping away and getting that lead. And then the Phillies, 11 games back from the Mets, 8 games back from the Braves. And then the Marlins and Nationals, just, my goodness, will the Nationals even win, we said, would they win 10 more games? I think they've won 4 since we last talked about that, Andrew.
Well, that's because apparently the Padres forgot how to win baseball games after the trade deadline. So
happened.
I did not expect them to take 4 of 6 games from San Diego, but in that 2-week span. But
that's baseball for you.
I don't know. Washington, Miami, better luck next year. But I'll tell you what, we said last week, I think the Mets might lose this division. I think the Braves are playing better. The Mets seem not to be able to beat anybody but the Phillies. And they're out of games this year. So Mets might find a way to actually blow this. And it'll be really funny to see. I hate the Mets more than the Braves. So if the Braves take it, that'd be really funny to see.
But I think as long as Phillies can at least get some of their bit more of their act together, it's like they could still make the play, overtake the Padres and take the second spot.
Oh yeah, we're in the second spot. I don't have any issues with the way the Phillies have played. Mets are our kryptonite. Mets have our number. Outside of that, there's a stat I read the other day. And obviously you can't, but if you take out the Mets games this year, the Phillies are 21 games above 500. That's how bad it's been against the Mets this year. And again, we're out of games against the Mets, so I expect the Phillies to start winning. And you survived without Bryce Harper the last 2 months, and he's coming back next week, and you were 10 games over 500 without him. So, you're getting your MVP from last season back. So, it's only going up for the Phillies, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you'd see them try to – it's like if they make the playoffs, then it's like now their acquisitions are actually working out.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Because it's like they spent so much money over the last few years, and it's amounted to almost nothing.
Absolutely, and I actually have to look this up now because I think the Mariners are number 1 and the Phillies are number 2. I think with the longest playoff drought in baseball. So I wonder who takes that throne maybe if both teams end the drought.
Yeah, so we're gonna have a new race that no one expected. And then looking at the NL Central, the St. Louis Cardinals, the Pujols home run chase is on its way. Number 693 yesterday. And 4.5 game lead currently on the Brewers. We'll see what the Brewers do tonight in their game against the Dodgers. And then the Cubs, Reds, and Pirates all just chilling in the rebuild section.
Yep. I got really no much to say about that. And then just, Pujols gets 700. That's really all I can say.
Yeah, Kate, we talked about before with the Cardinals and Brewers. To me, it's no surprise. Cardinals play better ball second half down the stretch. I fully expect them to continue to take this division. I don't trust the Brewers. They'll end up losing to LA tonight, I think. And no, I think the Cardinals are going to continue. I'd be shocked if they find a way to lose this.
Yep.
And just a heads up, Mariners 20 years, Phillies 10 years, and the next one will not be ending. Angels and Tigers are tied for 7.
Okay.
So
that sounds about right.
the Angels and Tigers are, if the season ended today, would be the new crown of the longest playoff drought.
Yeah, I don't think you want that crown, but but I do want to say on the Cardinals real quick, Jordan Montgomery, just thank you, Yankees. I appreciate that trade every day. When you go out there and throw a 99-pitch game, give up 1 hit, you just throw a Maddox, it's no problem.
A one-hitter.
Just throw a one-hitter. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Looking at the NL West, the Dodgers still with that commanding lead, 17.5 games. My goodness. Can anyone stop the Dodgers? Well, yeah, everyone's beatable in baseball.
Joey Galloway did it.
But, my goodness, the Padres you thought you'd get better, and here you are.
Well,
still the same.
Doesn't help that Tatis Jr. Got hit with PEDs, so that...
Actually, that's the most Padres thing to happen, though. Get one good player, lose one.
Yeah, but what I mean is you're hoping to get Tatis back.
Yeah.
That would actually have boosted them, but because he got busted for PEDs, all you did was just replace Tatis, and you're not getting much better. But it's like one thing interesting fact that I ended up seeing was with Joey Galloway with the Dodgers, ever since that acquisition, Dodgers have been 13-3 with Galloway, while as the Yankees are 3-13 without Galloway. That was one weird stat I found out. It was like, didn't realize the Yankees were doing that poorly.
Yeah, no.
The Yankees have been horrible.
Yeah, it's great.
I love it.
We all love it.
They've lost 10 games in that division. We were sitting here talking about, I think it was 17.5 game lead. It's down to 8. Here's the thing. Everyone's having fun with the statistic, but, nothing against Joey Gallo, but he's not that big of a difference maker.
No. I'm just saying
he's not. It's just a funny stat.
Yeah, it's just a funny stat.
No. It keeps getting, thrown out on social media and everything. It's like...
Well, listen, they got to change the numbers. Joey Gallo's got to,
trust me, if Joey Gallo wasn't on the Dodgers still winning those games.
The other one funny stat I want to get to here is that the Giants still have a 2% chance of making the playoffs. I don't know how that's there with that 60 and 61. I credit to them, I guess, the playoff predictor.
That basically would mean every team in the wild card that's in front of them would have to collapse right away.
Well, my guess is with the team in the last wild card spot being their divisional opponent, my guess is they have a lot of games with the Padres left. So if they're able to take advantage, say they have 6 games left and they take 4 of them, bam, you're right back in the playoff race. So I don't know off the top of my head what the Giants' schedule looks like, but my guess is that's where that's coming from. Is if they just take care of head-to-head, they'll find a way.
And then also, fun meme statistic final time. We always joke about the Rangers because of their amazing run differential that we just check in on every time we do this. +5 run differential now, but still a 56-66 record. So the Rangers finally figured that around at least. It's no longer -4.
Actually, here's a funny stat. It's Joey Gallo, again, with 162 game pace with and without his beard. With his beard, with beard because he's with the Rangers and Dodgers, he's 212, 41 home runs, 90 RBIs, 110 hits with an 837 OPS. Then without the beard, he's 159 average, 29 home runs, 53 RBIs, 78 hits, and a 660 OPS. So apparently he needs to keep his beard.
He can in New York, though. I never understand that rule. But.
Yeah. It's the traditional way, I guess. I don't understand it either.
I don't get it either.
Baseball gets too traditionalist sometimes, I guess you could say.
It's only the Yankees, though.
It's like,
It used to be a lot more, though.
They ruined Johnny Damon's hair. Andrew McCutcheon had a shave. He had a cool thing going. He went out there. They ruined him. And now Joey Gallo. We didn't have a fantastic one.
Versus those other players, Joey Gallo's not really.
So James Harden needs to sign a 1-day contract with the Yankees so we can all see him shave.
I want to see him without the beard.
Yeah, that would be interesting. But looking at the American League wild card here, the Rays with a half-game lead on both the Blue Jays and the Mariners with that 1 spot. And then the tie, of course, with Toronto and Seattle. And the Orioles 2.5 games back, trying to crawl into that 3rd wild card spot for now. The Twins, White Sox, Red Sox, all in it. And the Rangers have technically 10 games out. It's mathematically possible, but other than that, probably not going to happen.
They won 3 straight.
Okay.
No, again, I think this is going to be a fun race. The Mariners have opened up a little bit, which is funny because they've lost the last 2. But over the last week since we've last talked, the Mariners actually have opened up a little bit more breathing room. That was, I think, a half game or a game last time we talked about it. I think it's Mariners to lose. I'd honestly, if I had to pick one of the 3 right now to fall out, it'd be Tampa Bay. I think Toronto and Seattle are too good. So if there's a team I'd pick, I'd say, well, Chicago's been losing. I'd say Chicago would be the team, though, to overtake Tampa Bay. That'd be my prediction. I think it's going to stay the same. Let me emphasize that. But if there is a team, I'd say White Sox find a way to get up there.
And then looking at the National League, the Braves with the 8-game lead for that first wild card spot. And the Phillies and the Padres tied for second, tiebreaker going to Philadelphia right now. And Milwaukee a game and a half back. The Giants technically 6.5 games out. I guess that's where that 2% chance comes in from. And then the Diamondbacks, Cubs, Marlins, Rockies all the way down. Once again, still, I guess, technically, mathematically possible for now, but more than likely not for long.
No, and you mentioned the tiebreaker. I mean, that's big for the Phillies, obviously. They won the season series against the Padres. And real quick, going back to that, I was talking about the Phillies struggling against the Mets. Here's a fun stat. The Phillies have actually won the tiebreaker over the Padres, the Cardinals, the Dodgers, and the Brewers. Like, all the teams that they're competing for, and then they're just that bad against the Mets. They've lost, I think they're 9 games under 500 against the Mets this year. Like, it's just funny how one team can have your number like that. But, I mean, honestly, I already said I don't really trust Milwaukee. San Francisco, I think, has dug themselves too big of a hole. So I'd be surprised if the NL honestly has any shakeup. But, obviously, Brewers only being a game and a half back have a good shot. But it's more of who wins the battle for second, in my opinion, Phillies or Padres. And it kind of – you know what's fun about that, too, is you play matchups. Like, if you're the Padres, do you want the Cardinals? I mean, that would be a series for the ages, though. Like, watching Goldschmidt, Arenado going up against Machado and Juan Soto, like that is must-see baseball. I would like that. I'd pay to go travel to St. Louis and watch that.
I would too. I'm
Well,
not going to disagree.
But I mean, no.
But the money, you guys won't be able to get the money for that.
Listen, if someone wants to donate to
probably
us,
not that
if
bad.
that happens, we'll gladly do it.
First
do a live
series
show at
wild
Busch.
card, it won't be that bad. It's not like it's the World Series. I mean, I don't think the wild card series will be too bad, especially if you're going like high up. I'm not saying give me first row behind the dugout.
Yeah, that's one where it's like, I'll take the 400 deck just to be there.
Like in this day and age, honestly, the gas price going there and back will probably be more than the ticket.
Probably more, yeah. But that will do it for our show tonight. As always, we thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed what you heard tonight, feel free to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok at NWTV7. Be sure to like and subscribe and leave a comment below. Share the videos with others. Do whatever you want to do. For Andrew Santangelo, Connor Gray, I am Cade Kennedy. Have a wonderful evening, everybody. And until Thursday night, we'll see you then.